Hi guys, this is John from Divers Den, Georgia. I wanted to take this time to give you a quick tutorial on how to operate and set the Suunto Zoop Dive computer. It's a pretty user-friendly computer, entry-level type of computer, and it's what we use for students to do checkout dives, and we also provide them as rentals. Okay, so when you turn it on, it's going to cycle through a battery OK indication. And then it's going to come to the first display screen that you see when you're not diving, the surface display screen. There are 4 of them. This is the first one. The second one is the dive display screen. The third one is the plan. And the fourth is the memory. Okay. Now there are 2 separate menus to access on the Suunto Zoop Dive computer. There's the general settings menu and there's the dive settings menu. And this is a little bit confusing for some people because in the general settings menu is where you go in to toggle back and forth from nitrox and air, and then you have to go to the dive settings menu to change to nitrox. I'll show you that in a second. So let's go ahead and go to the general settings menu first. To access the menu from the general settings menu, you go to the time display screen, you press and hold the down button. It'll say general settings, and then it'll show you the first one is dive mode. Okay, dive mode, you can go ahead and press the select button, and this is where you go and you can toggle back and forth from nitrox, gauge, free, off, and then air. For all intents and purposes, you either going to be using nitrox or air. So we're going to go ahead and set this one to air just for the sake of demonstration. So you just cycle through until it says air. Alright, and I'm going to go ahead and press the select button. Okay, now it took me back to the general settings menu. I'm going to go ahead and cycle back to the alarm. This one will give you the opportunity to turn the alarm on just like a regular alarm clock. I have this one set off. Okay. Next is the time. This is where you can go in there and set the time. Just like if you wanted to change it in here. You can also change it back and forth from military time to standard 12-hour time. Okay, the next one is the dual time. This is where you can set 2 times. So if you have one dive site in Hawaii and another one in continental United States, you can kind of track the times for both time zones simultaneously. Okay, and then obviously this is the date, fairly intuitive. You go in there and set the date. This is the units. This is where you change back and forth from imperial to metric, right? And we're going to keep ours on imperial. Okay, next is the backlight. The backlight is a time setting. So when I'm diving and I press the button right here, the mode button, a backlight will illuminate and it'll stay on for 30 seconds. I can change it all the way down to 5 seconds, and I actually go turn it off. I'm going to keep that at 30 seconds. Okay, after that is the contrast. This is how you set the contrast. The different tones. You can go in here. I'm going to say, yep, I want my computer to either have tones or turn them off. I want them on so that all my alarms, like my depth time alarm, my ascent rate alarm, and all those associated with my PO2 alarm, those things will all alert me while I'm diving. Okay, and then the last one is the version. Is where you can go in there and see the version of the software that this thing is using in case you needed to know that for some reason. Okay, so I click the mode button to back up to the time screen, display screen, and then I'm going to go ahead and mash the mode button until I see dive. I kind of passed it once already. And then you have to kind of like not touch it for a couple seconds. Let it cycle through until the screen says, looks like this. It gives me my surface interval time, my no-fly time, and it shows me, obviously I'm on the surface, 0 depth in feet. Okay, so from this display screen you can enter the dive settings menu again by pressing and holding the down button. Just like that. Give it time. Okay, now it says this is your personal and your altitude. Your personal settings is what you want to set to make your dive computer algorithm more sensitive, more conservative, or less conservative. Like if you are in great shape, you're diving in nice tropical warm waters in the perfect conditions, your personal want to be set to 0. If I make that go up, I'm going to, for each all my different factors that make it more, make me more prone to decompression sickness, like my physical health, the conditions of the dive, the water temperature, all those things. For each factor, I'm going to make my computer more conservative, and I'm going to leave this one to 0 because we're setting ours in the spring. Altitude, this one is for if you're diving somewhere other than sea level at 1,000 feet, 2,000 feet, or at sea level. All right, ours is going to be set to sea level because we're diving in Florida. Okay. Okay, after that is, wrong way, the deep alarm, the depth alarm. This is where I'm going to go in there and say, hey, when I reach this depth, I want you to alarm me audibly, right? And this one is set to 65 feet and it's on. You can toggle it on and off if you'd like to. Okay, I'm going to go down again. Okay, and I'm going to get my dual time alarm, or my dive time alarm. My dive time alarm is once I get to 30 minutes on this one and it's on, it'll start beeping me to remind me that hey, it's 30 minutes has elapsed. Very useful to use if you have really good air consumption and you're diving shallow and the boat captain's like, hey, I need everyone up in 45 minutes. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is a sample rate. This is how often that the computer will analyze the depth and the temperature, and then all that data will go into the algorithms. And I'll show you what I'm set to here. I'm set to 10 seconds right here on this one. That's a pretty good sample rate. Okay, and then the last one is the deep stop. The deep stop is going to give you like a 1 minute stop at 40 foot. It kind of goes into different plays with decompression algorithms and theories. They say that if some people think, or some models have a deep stop built into it, and if your deep stop's built into your computer and you use it, your surface intervals may be a little bit shorter, and your bottom time is maybe a little bit longer, and it's a little safer if you do those deep stops if you're coming in from deep depths. Not necessarily need to be invoked, or it's off on this computer, and we're going to keep it that way because we're not diving very much deeper than 40 feet over this weekend for the checkout dives. Okay, so that is the two different menus you can get into. Now I'm going to show you what the dive menu looks like when I'm set on Nitrox, and this is where it gets a little funny. In order to go and change it to Nitrox, I have to go back to the general settings menu, which is accessible from the time screen, where I press and hold the down button, and then I will change my dive mode to Nitrox. Just like that. I'll go ahead and press select, and now I'm telling, hey, dive computer, I'm using Nitrox now. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and go all the way back to my dive menu, which I could do from the dive settings or the dive screen. Be patient on this one. When you see surface time, press and hold down again. Nitrox dive settings. Remember last time I said air dive settings, and now I have an additional option in my settings menu. All right, I'm going to go ahead and press my select for Nitrox, and then this is where I can go ahead and I can change my O2 mix in the gas I'm breathing. And when I change this, I want you to pay attention to the depth in feet that it gives you. That is your maximum operating depth for the mix you're giving at that partial pressure you have it set to. Okay, so a partial pressure of 1.4 is the industry standard planning partial pressure for recreational scuba diving. All right, so if you notice here, if I go down here, I make my oxygen percentage less, and you can see that my MOD goes up. All right, and it'll go all the way down to 21%, and then it goes all the way up to 50. Now, most entry-level Nitrox classes allow you or certify you up to 40%. This one goes all the way up to 50%, and you can see If I'm at 40%, my MOD, of course, is like pretty shallow at 79. I'm gonna go ahead and set this to 32 because that's the mix we're gonna be using this weekend. Okay, I'm gonna press the mode button. I also, oops, wrong button. I'm gonna press. Let me get back to that dive menu real quick. Sorry about that. So then I'm gonna go press the up button, the select button. Right, and that's going to make me allow to change my partial pressure that I want to operate at. Okay, you can go all the way down to 0.8 or something like that in here. Actually deeper than that. 1.4 or 0.4 is the shallowest or the lowest I can go. 1.6 is the highest you can go. In the recreational scuba industry, 1.6 is the allowable threshold for contingency partial pressure. That's not something I want to plan with, so I'm going to go ahead and set this at 1.4. I want you to notice up here, as I change that, my maximum operating depth changed as well. Okay, so that's how you play with the two different menus to get it to do what you want it to do. Okay, now let's go to the plan menu. This is where you can plan dives for either your first dive of the day or subsequent dives for the day. Okay, again, when I go to my plan menu, it says, hey, this is the depth, this is the shallowest depth you can plan for, this is the mix that you have, and that is it says that it's the first dive of the day. Okay, so if you notice here that I press the down button, right, I don't get a no decompression limit until I reach 50 feet because I'm on 32%, and then my no decompression limit for 32% at 50 feet on the first dive of the day is 86 minutes. Right, and as I descend, or as I descend, you can note that the no decompression time gets shorter. Okay. Now let's go ahead and note something real quick. I want to show you something that's really cool on Nitrox. Let's say I'm at 100 feet, right? At 32%, I have 13 minutes. Let me go ahead and cycle real quick back to air. Just like this. Okay, I'm on air now. Let's go back to that menu for plan. And let's go all the way down to 100 feet. And you can see that my no decompression limit at 100 feet is only 8 minutes that time, right? So pretty big difference if you look at percentages as far as your bottom time for air at 21%. The biggest difference you're going to see is probably around 80 or 70 feet and no decompression limits for oxygen, between air and nitrox. Okay, and then finally, the last one on this one is your memory or your logbook. All right, you can go to your memory here, and you can look at two things. You can look at your logbook. Let's look at history first. History, this is just the number of dives on this computer, number of hours on this computer, the total number of dives, and then the maximum depth that this computer has seen. This is a rental computer, so this has been exposed to lots of different divers of varying different levels of instruction and certification. Okay, now if I go to my logbook, this is where I can go back and I can look at the different dives of the different days. Okay, up here is the date, here is the time of the day, and then you can go ahead and just cycle through. These are pretty short dives. Right here, this must have been going up and down for some rescue classes or rescue exercises. Sorry about the phone in the background. Okay, so you can see here it's cycling through the dives of the day. And if you cycle far enough, it goes to your end of your logs. The most recent one on this, let's see, 9/27/20, right? So let's go to a good dive that actually has some good tangible data. Let's go to one that's it's like I've got 246 of them. Just like there's a good one. There's a 8 foot, 105 minutes. Probably not a good one. Let's keep going here. Here's that one's okay. Here's a good one, 88 feet for 15 minutes. Okay, so if I want to lock this in and I want to see more details of this dive, I can go ahead and press the select button. Okay, and then here it'll show you my surface time before that dive was, my average depth in feet, Again, this value up here is the maximum depth that you saw for that dive. Okay, and then this gives you a nice little dive profile, what it looks like. I can move it over a little bit, and I can cycle through the time. You can see the arrow moving over, and you can see kind of what my dive profile was at 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 4 minutes 51 seconds, which is a pretty kind of cool thing. Okay, and then back again is the date and the time. Okay, so that is pretty much everything that this computer will do. That's really useful. I think go over the gauge or the free settings because it's not really applicable to diving that much. But if there's any questions, feel free to reach out to me via in the comments block or on the Facebook page that we're going to be putting this on. And just like always, you guys have a happy bottom time.